How are you? So good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 18th of July, 2025. This is the meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board. I'm going to ask our Executive Director, Raymond, to do roll call to confirm a quorum and then advise if we have any public comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. McElroy?
Here.
Mr. Palacios?
Here.
Ms. Ortega?
Here.
We do have a quorum, and we
Okay.
have no sign-ins for
Public comment? Okay, thank you. So the next item of business is adoption of the minutes from the board meeting of June the 11th, 2025. Has everyone had a chance to review? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. McElroy, second from Mr. Palacio. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 3 on the agenda, presentation, discussion, and action on a board resolution selecting a financial advisor pursuant to the CRRMA's request for proposals issued in May 2025 and authorizing the negotiation and execution of agreement with such selected firm.
Good afternoon, Robert Suter, Director of Finance for the record. So we brought this to the board in the spring, and IT, if you could bring up the PowerPoint. So we had a RFP out on the street, and we'll go through our typical items that we normally do on a procurement, including just the role of the financial advisor for anyone who's not familiar, but they will assist us with developing and closing on various debt issuances. We used them most recently, financial advisor on the VRF refunding that we did last summer. Ongoing continuing disclosure reports and other requirements of prior debt issuances, and then recommendations as we look at possible future debt issuances. So on May 2nd, we issued the RFP. On May 16th, Q&A was completed. On May 30th, bids were due. We only received one bid. I would point out we did advertise this in the Texas Register, which is what we did last time that we went out back in 2020. The one bid, we did confirm with legal that we can proceed with that. I think one of the reasons we only had one bid is we are a small, infrequent issuer. We don't have a lot on the schedule going forward. We possibly could refinance the 2017 VRF bonds, but it's not like we're the city, the county, water utility where we're going out every 18 months or so, and so there may just not have been a large appetite. We did evaluate the RFP, and using this scoring criteria that was approved by the board back in March, I believe. Hilltop is our current financial advisor, and they were the only respondent to the proposal. We did review and evaluate, and staff does recommend selection of Hilltop for a period of 5 years with single two-year options, single two-year option as noted within the RFP. So I'm happy to take any questions. If there are none, I would request a motion as listed up on the PowerPoint.
I mean, they have a really good reputation, so.
Yes, ma'am. We've been happy with them.
They've done good work for us.
Yes, they've been the advisor since the inception of the RMA.
Does anyone have any concerns?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
A second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay. No one is opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to, let me see which one. Item number 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to the interlocal agreement with the City of El Paso for the acquisition of property and related activities for the Montwood Drive Extension Project.
Okay, it's read into the record. We're dealing with an interlocal agreement that we have with the City of El Paso. This is for the Montwood project that is actually being jointly developed with the county, the city, and the RMA. So as a quick refresher, we partnered with the county initially to develop the design work for this particular project, so the county is funding the design. And then the city has asked us to do the property acquisitions of 14 different parcels and also to handle the annexation paperwork. So we'll handle that for the City of El Paso, and then we're going to turn all of that over to the city. They will handle the construction activities. So to date, we have acquired 3 parcels have been closed. 1 is going to close next week, and we're moving on the remaining 10. The original interlocal agreement has an expiration in September of 2025. And we think in order to get all of those acquisitions completed and the annexation paperwork done, we're going to need a little bit more time than that. So this amendment extends that term by an additional 6 months, and that's all it does. So this has been reviewed, and in fact, the draft was provided by the city attorney's office. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this item.
Is there any discussion? I'll call for a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 5, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of amendments to the following instruments as they relate to the Tornillo Guadalupe Port of Entry study. A is the interlocal agreement with El Paso County. B, the interlocal agreement with the University of Texas at El Paso on behalf of the Hunt Institute for Global Competitiveness. C, work authorization number 1 with HDR Engineering, Inc. And D, work authorization number 65 with Atkins Realis USA, Inc. And if you could explain everything, and then we can just take one vote, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. So generally speaking, well, actually, let me take it back a step. So this is a project that we partnered with the county on to help their economic development department. They were looking at developing a study to look at the Tornillo Guadalupe Port of Entry, specifically to identify what could be done to increase usage. So we've done a couple of things at their request. We've partnered with the Hunt Institute at UTEP to develop certain study components through them. We also have HDR on board to provide some traffic modeling and traffic information as well. And then we have an additional partnering with Atkins to do the oversight. Plus, I should mention, initially, Atkins had brought on Barracuda PR to provide certain outreach, outreach component that was to be provided as part of this. And that included outreach into Juarez, and that sort of thing. So as we know, Barracuda unfortunately has filed for bankruptcy, so we had to retool this relationship and figure out who was going to handle the Barracuda scope. In addition to that, the county has retooled their initial request for scope, so we're doing a couple of things. We're shifting some of that Barracuda outreach, those Barracuda outreach activities to the Hunt Institute at UTEP, and then we're also adding increasing scope to Barracuda. We pushed the website development and hosting over to HDR, and so that's what you'll see under 5C. And again, as I mentioned, we increased scope and pushed the Barracuda scope and funding over to the Hunt Institute under 5B. So then that leaves 5D, which is Atkins. We reduced the Barracuda scope, so there's less scope and less funding for Atkins on that piece. However, they did keep the management of the billboards and that component. So generally speaking, that's what you see under this. The underlying county interlocal agreement is then amended for scope purposes, and also they're providing a different funding source. So they've separated out some funding from ARPA that can be used in Mexico. And so they've identified that, and some of the scope under Hunt is to provide coordination efforts for certain meetings and conferences throughout Mexico. So we've been able to it kind of blew up on us. We've been able to put it back together, and I think it's going to work out for everyone. So each of these has been reviewed by the respective parties, and I believe we're ready to go forward. The county, we are still playing. The only item I would note is that although the funding won't change, the potential funding source might change. So in the last table you see, in terms of what's being paid out of ARPA versus county general fund, we might play with those a bit. So I would ask for authorization to execute subject to county review and approval of that. Outside of that, the rest of these items are ready to go. So I would recommend approval.
Are you comfortable that the Hunt Institute has the capacity for the kind of outreach?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are. So we spent a lot of time going through that with them, and the county did as well. Of course, I should have started with this. The county has reviewed and approved the scope changes and the funding changes as well. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any discussion?
Just a quick note. We heard from at the last week and then in the planning committee about the study that they're doing. When they presented, they weren't aware of the needs assessment the bridge department was doing, so that needs to be folded into that study. It seems to me that this probably needs to be folded into that as well. So however we communicate that to them, maybe he already knows, but
And we have mentioned this to both of those groups, so we totally agree.
yeah.
There
and
needs
so
to be.
With that, I'd move to approve.
So I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I do think it's important that they have access to the information we're doing on this, so they're not duplicating work.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, a lot of the modeling that HDR is doing is pulling from the MPO's
Okay.
international model. So there is ongoing conversation between the various entities.
Okay, great. Okay, and that vote was for all of the items A through D, 5A through D, just to make sure everybody's clear on that. Item 6, presentation and discussion on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for the John Hayes Extension, Street Extension, Phase 1 project, and Weiler Aerial Tramway project.
Okay, I've got a quick PowerPoint for you. This is the usual change order PowerPoint. We've got 2 of them to talk through today. The first one is John Hayes, and actually you might remember this one. This is change order number 5. This is the one where we're making a connection, a water line connection for El Paso Water at Pelicano. This one you may recall, I had to bring to you for action because it was in excess of the $100,000 that's authorized by resolution. The board approved it. However, they approved it with a not to exceed amount of $296,000. That was the estimate that we had at that time. They have since revised that down all the way down to $205,000, and that's the final change order. So this is informational purposes only, just to let you know that we have signed that change order, and there was quite a bit of savings of about $91,000. So that is underway. And the second one is the Weiler Aerial Tramway. This is the first change order that we've got for this particular project, and this is specific to Texas Parks and Wildlife. We have 4 sanitary sewer manholes as part of this project that are being installed. And Texas Parks and Wildlife prefers a tape joint sealer for those manholes that we don't normally use in this area, so we didn't call it out. But Parks has specifically requested that joint sealer. So they've authorized the expenditure of this $9,500 for those joint sealers, and this change order has been executed. So that's it. That's the first one that we've got for Weiler Aerial Tramway, and that's all I have for you. No action is required.
How's the project coming along? Good?
It's going well, yes.
Okay.
This is the first change order, no delays so far, and things are going really well. In fact, I'll share with you all some photos of some of the demolition that's occurred and some of the construction activities.
That'd be
It's
great.
looking good. Yeah, I'll
Good.
do that.
Yeah, that's one of those projects that people are excited about.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so any action required?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So then I'll go to 7, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting an amended RMA travel and reimbursement policy.
Yes, ma'am. So I would point out as we get started that the Finance Committee did review and recommend approval to the full board. Basically what happened and what caused us to look at this is Southwest changed its fare structure.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of organizations are looking at revising their policy. When we looked at it, now the least expensive fare does not allow you to make changes.
Mm-hmm.
And a quick anecdote, 2.5 years ago, Raymond and I were at a conference in Austin. There was bad weather approaching. If you didn't leave like Mr. Fino, who didn't change his flights, you got stuck in Austin for several extra days. Raymond and I were able to move our flights forward, so we want to keep that flexibility. So our proposal is the least expensive fare category that allows for flight changes at no
Okay.
additional cost. We also found some cleanup items in the rest of the policy, nothing major, but I did want to point that out, and the red lines are in your backup. But the committee and staff recommend approval.
I'll move to approve.
So we have a motion and a second. I do have a quick question, because I didn't look at this, I don't know, and I couldn't find a link for some reason when I was going back through the agenda, and that may be my fault from the first one, but is there any provision in there as it relates to board travel?
Yes, ma'am. This
Because I know
policy
we had
applies to
this
both.
little issue before where I had to travel somewhere and it was sort of convoluted. I mean, I think I had to pay and do everything and get reimbursed or something, and
The practice is for whoever is traveling, whether we board or staff, to pay up front and then seek reimbursement.
Okay.
And so that is part of the
as
policy.
long as it's clean, I just want to make sure it's very clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody okay with that? So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving into item 8, which is discussion and action on the following reports for the third quarter of the fiscal year 2025. A, interim financial statement. B, investment report. C, El Paso Bike Share Program. D, general engineering consultants team's use of local resources.
So the Finance Committee took all of these items in depth 2 weeks ago at our usual meeting, and I would like to give credit to Ms. Masters. She and I met separately and also reviewed these, and so she had to deal with me twice, but as the new treasurer and chair of the Finance Committee, I think it was great that she took me up on my offer and we were able to meet and discuss. So as our past practices, I'm not planning to take these in depth because the Finance Committee has already reviewed them unless you have questions. I would note that the Finance Committee also took a first pass at the operating budget. We'll be back before you in August, and we will go through that in detail with the full board. And then earlier today, you should have received an email from an attorney with Kemp Smith who is handling Mr. Tejas' evaluation. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him or me. But I do ask that you follow the timelines associated with that so that that can also be before the board at the August meeting.
And on the latter, I recognize several of you are new to the board and don't really have an extensive background for the entire year, but if you feel comfortable enough to weigh in on just the time that you're here, you're fine. If you're not comfortable, you can just say that you're new, you don't feel like you're in a position to do a just evaluation. Did we reach out to the former board members?
Yes, the former board members have also been contacted.
Okay, good, because I think some of them were really active, and I'm sure they'd be happy to contribute. Okay, that's fine. I just saw that. Yes, I saw that come in today.
So again, staff and the committee do request action today to accept the reports for
Okay.
all 4 reports under item 8.
Sure.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to, and then the other thing before we move on to item 9, Raymond's contract is up for renewal. And he sent it to me, we sent it to the attorney. He's not recommended any major changes to it. He did offer to discuss like reducing his vehicle allowance because he's not traveling as much as he used to, which I thought was pretty generous. And so I just told him to follow up with the attorney with changes he wanted. I looked at it myself. I didn't see anything substantial that we would want to change. But once you get the final draft, if you would send it out to the other board members so they have time to review it. That way, if you have any comments or concerns, you can get those into the attorney early enough so that we can, if we need to make some other changes, then we can do it and not be doing it at the last minute. Thank you. So then item 9 is discussion and action on the board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the Pelicano Drive widening project. 1 is amending the interlocal agreement with El Paso County. 2 is the takeover agreement with United States Fire Insurance Company. 3 is the amendment to work authorization number 3 with CEA Engineering, Inc. And D is the amendment to work authorization number 27.8 with Atkins Realis USA, Inc. And Raymond, if you would go through this, would you explain exactly like how, like what's happening here? Because this is a big project that's been on hold for a long time. A lot of people are really concerned about it. Like what all these mean, how the work's going to roll out, what the timeline is, et cetera, et cetera. I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. So this is really following up on our board meeting from last month where we had outlined to the board a potential way forward for this particular project. So backing up a step, and for the benefit of the public, as a reminder, this project was sidelined because of the default of the contractor that was not able to complete the construction contract. So when we defaulted that contractor, the contractor filed a claim arguing that the default was improper. And at that same time, during the default, we also filed a claim against the surety. The surety has relied upon the claim that the default was improper to withhold the funds necessary to restart the project. Because normally the surety would step in and begin work. So ultimately it falls back to that claim for wrongful default. That's what we took the trustee to court about and ultimately won and is now on appeal, unfortunately. However, as a kind of a complementary approach, we had reached out to the surety directly and asked the surety if they would be willing to to construct what we've been referring to as the interim fix. It's really breaking out the remaining work that's necessary into two distinct phases. The first phase is essentially the construction of the westbound piece of Pelicano from roughly Air Coupe Way heading back to Loop 375, plus some a transition piece and also some drainage facilities that are necessary. And we identified that for a couple of reasons. We think we can afford it with the remaining project funds that are available, but also that's the most, in our opinion, the most important piece of that roadway because it touches a school, residents, and the majority of the businesses that are in that area. So the alleviation of this problem would alleviate a lot of the congestion and problems that we have out there while we continue to work with the surety and the courts to get to the final resolution, which would allow us to complete that final piece. So that's what we had been after for quite some time, the interim fix. What you see before you today then are 4 distinct items that allow us to complete that interim fix. The first item is an interlocal with the County of El Paso where they would provide some, what we're referring to as gap funding. They would essentially provide $6 million worth, $6 million of vehicle registration fee funds for us to combine with the available project funds, turn those over to the surety company, and the surety company under 9B would then take those funds and complete the project. And that's important because once we defaulted the surety company, TxDOT has told us that the surety is the entity that has access to the project funds. So we needed them to step in, and that's why 9B is so important. So we have that agreement with them. Incidentally, I would mention we have our attorney online. I don't think we need to go into executive, but he's available should we need to if you're interested in getting more detail. But again, so the takeover agreement outlines the relationship between us, outlines the plan, and outlines how those funds would be utilized. There is one item that needs to be discussed, and I'll come back to that. However, that takeover agreement essentially would allow the surety to engage a construction contractor. I would mention also back in December of 2024, there were bids received by the surety when we initially were working on this interim fix. Those bids were received in December of 2024, and the low bidder has agreed to hold pricing that were submitted back in December all the way through August 10th. So the clock is ticking. We have until August 10th to execute all of these agreements here and have the surety bring that company on board. It's Hawk Construction, who's actually working on some other projects for us. So we're very excited about that. The price did not increase, and it allowed us to keep the county's additional contribution at $6 million. So again, very excited about that piece as well. 9C then brings CEA Engineering on board. They were the original design firm for this particular project. It brings them on to provide design services during the construction of this phase 1. And I should mention too, as a reminder, last month you all approved bringing CEA on board to complete the design package for the remaining piece. So to break the project into pieces, we have the original piece that was designed, the whole project was designed by CEA. JAR Construction completed a piece of it. We've now have a design package for what we're now referring to as phase 1. That's what we're pursuing under these items today. And then from last month's activity, CEA was brought on board to do the design for the remaining piece. And that's important because once we have this takeover agreement in effect and we have the completion contractor on board, we will have that package for the final piece. We'll get it priced by the completion contractor, and then we can negotiate with the surety the entire global fix. So all of these pieces are starting to come together. It's been a long road, but they're finally starting to come together. So that's the importance of CEA and item 9C. And then lastly, item 9D is Atkins, who serves as our general engineering consultant. They will do the oversight and the construction engineering and inspection during phase 1. And that's what you see as work authorization amendment number 27.8. So a couple of things. First, I'm going to ask for approval to execute each of these documents, and there are board resolutions and draft agreements as part of your backup for each of these items. However, I would make 2 notes. The county interlocal amendment, there's one item outstanding that has not been resolved, and that is we are requesting the county to give us access to vehicle registration fee general funds as opposed to bond proceeds. The reason for that is this $6 million that we're expending of county VRF funds, we intend to recoup from the surety. So when you use bond proceeds, you can't put them back in once they're expended. You have tax and interest and all sorts of other implications. So we're simply asking the county to authorize us to use general fund dollars from that VRF program, which are much more fungible. So that's an outstanding request. I don't think we're getting pushback, but it just hasn't been approved by the Commissioners Court yet. So that's one item that's outstanding that I wanted to note in that interlocal. And then the other item that's outstanding is in the takeover agreement. The version that I've dropped into your backup is a version that is still in play, but conceptually, we have agreed, our attorneys have agreed with the surety's attorneys on all of the provisions. They're playing with language on one particular item, and then there's one outstanding item, and that deals with liquidated damages. So the initial request from the surety company was for the RMA to waive all liquidated damages that could be, any claims that could be pursued by the RMA against the surety up until the date of execution for the takeover agreement. We felt that was too large of an ask, so we've pushed back on that. We've since begun negotiating a potential cap amount or an actual cash.
Could you repeat that, those last two sentences again? You thought it was too big of an ask?
So
They want us to waive all liquidated damages up to.
That's what so that's what I thought, that's what that's what I thought.
Our attorney has come up with an alternative,
Yeah.
Okay,
like a modified
all right, got it.
agreement that I think we have consensus on potentially.
Well, we're talking through it. So they've come back so again, their pitch was no liquidated damages until the takeover is executed, and then any liquidated damages that accrue after that date, it would be a liable claim for us. And really all we're talking about is reserving our rights for potential claims. And so our position was, we're not waiving any rights, and certainly not all of the liquidated damages as of today. We're waiting for the global conversation that we want to have with you once we have all those other pieces that I was mentioning. So as a compromise, they've come back with an alternative where perhaps they could give a certain dollar amount in exchange for the waiver of those liquidated damages. So we're in that conversation now. We need to roll the county into that conversation. But ultimately, that's the one outstanding item, but I feel like we're actually very close. So,
Put a cash cap on it.
and so what I'm requesting of you all under item 9B is an authorization to execute that takeover agreement, subject to review and approval of the liquidated damages item that would require input from the county, since ultimately they're the ultimate owner, and it's their funds that we're really talking about today.
And if the county agrees, then
Just a couple small questions. Remind me when the court decision was they decided basically that all of this stuff was frivolous and the RMA was right to default the contractor.
Derek, do you remember the date of the
Más o menos.
of the ruling? I'd say several months back, March, April,
Okay.
something
I
like
think it was late May, early June.
that.
Oh, really?
I think it was.
It's not the real one.
Okay. And,
Yeah, but it was about 60 days ago.
okay, and thanks. The 6 million that you got from the county, I'm glad the project is progressing, they're putting up the money. At any point, did the surety have the option of just providing that money and then being reimbursed as the county, or as the project got built? Because it's the same money, right? The county's putting up basically gap money that they'll get back out of the project funds.
That's exactly the
Right.
structure that we're putting together.
So the surety chose not to put up that money, even though.
Correct.
That's
And
the deal, right?
that's right. So again, this all goes back to the.
Which was their argument, is they're going to extend it out as, I don't know.
Well, no, I would disagree slightly with that, though.
Yeah,
They're not doing anything, so the county doesn't want to do that. So they're saying.
Ms. Wilson, would you turn your microphone?
So they're saying, we'll fund the gap, but we're going to go after them once that appeal is resolved. And if we prevail then they have to reimburse.
and if it was my money, I'd do exactly what the surety
Yeah.
did too, right? And so that being the case, I'm happy to move to approve these items as presented, but the part that I think, I mean, ultimately, whatever the county decides, I guess we're bound to go with, but given how long this project has been delayed, as the different players
Mhm.
protect their own interests, the interests of the RMA are in the liquidated damages. And surrendering those easily or immediately at the beginning, I think, is a huge mistake, and it sends a message to go ahead and default, and you're never gonna have to pay liquidated damages if you're a surety.
Well, I would agree with that to a point. So as I mentioned,
They're putting a cap on.
our response was we are absolutely not waiving liquidated
And
damages.
I hope I'm hoping the RMA sticks with it.
We will.
Well, but I
It's
also
us,
agree
we're
with
the
you
RMA,
that
we
it's,
have to
it's
stick
the,
with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have my vote but that's the part that
The other thing is, the current bid is through the 10th of August, and I think they have to that has to be executed before that bid expires. And if they fail to execute, then I think we start looking at much more aggressive options. I think our attorney wants to talk.
Well, I just wanted to sort of bring maybe a little bit more clarity to what, the surety's position is obviously that they're not responsible. So that's why they didn't fund this originally, because it was their position that they weren't responsible for this. And so what Raymond has been able to do with his negotiations with the surety is to get them to a place where they will proceed, and we're reserving all of our rights to come back to those funds. And it seems to me that we're sort of trying to come to a compromise position on those, where we're not going to waive the liquidated damages, maybe waive a piece of them. It's sort of been sort of the last sort of negotiation point that was up there, but there's been no discussion. We've been very clear in those negotiations that we're not waiving our right to come back after them for the vast majority of those liquidated damages. There may be a piece of them that we can agree as a compromise that we wouldn't seek after a certain date or something like that, or we would cap the amount that we're seeking for the pre-completion or for the pre-commencement by the surety piece. There's also liquidated damages, though, in the takeover agreement itself, that if the surety does not complete according to the schedule that'll be agreed upon at that point, then the liquidated damages for their actual part, once they actually commence the performance, there's a liquidated damages component there as well. And so those sort of come back online, if you will. So I think that the position that Raymond has staked out with them is it's a good faith position for both parties, and it's to me I think that we're going to get it done on that basis, assuming that it's acceptable to the board. The piece that we're maybe talking about not pursuing is a small fraction of the liquidated damages because the liquidated damages have been accruing for going back to from way back. Exactly. And so the vast majority of those are there. And, and also ultimately, there's one piece in that agreement. It's not a deal point. It's just a language point that the lawyers are hashing out. And we've got agreement on the point. It's just getting the words right now. And that's that the penal sum of the bond, which is about $21 million, is not being reduced whatsoever by the work that's being done in the a part of this first phase. And so the surety is acknowledging that the full penal sum of the amount that the surety is liable for, is not being reduced.
And just to close the loop on the rest of that, all of the rights that we are reserving include every expense that we've incurred to date for traffic control, for litigation, for all of those other sorts of things. So it's a really important point.
It's just the daily accrual.
And it includes the
against
daily too, right?
It includes everything. We've reserved rights for everything, and this is the only item that we're even considering
Okay.
a compromise.
I'd be happy to move to approve the items.
Okay. So, any other discussion? Ms. Ortega? Do you have any
No,
questions?
I don't have any questions. No, I'm glad that the attorney gave that explanation in terms of where it stands. So, no, I'm going to vote to approve.
Good. And I basically asked him just to do it in an open session at this point, so there's a public record that we are really actively and aggressively moving this forward to get under construction, and that, we'll hold everybody accountable as we need to along the way. And Raymond and I have started regular meetings now with the county, the two affected elected officials and some of the staff. Up to like several weeks ago, Raymond's been kind of going through the channels he was directed and working primarily with the county attorney assigned to this because a lot of it had to deal with litigation. And so after today's meeting, we have a Zoom call, and we agreed every month after the board meeting that he and I would get on a Zoom call or meet with them so that everybody's comfortable that we're moving this project forward and that things are getting done. But I really want to hold firm to the August 10 deadline for execution, getting these resolved and executed, because I don't want to be dickering around with another bid and all that other nonsense that to me would just be another delay. And if we could just stress that anything we agree to is a contingent upon that bid being, us having an executed agreement before that bid expires on August 10th.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that
Derek,
Derek?
any thoughts or concerns?
No, I think that's smart. I think that's exactly right. And
Okay.
that way, because, we're offering them, something of a carrot here that we're willing to walk away from a small piece of those liquidated damages. And so let them know that if they want that carrot, they need to go now.
Okay, thank you. I think it just needs to be we need to be firm about that. Because we don't want to have to start down another path with adjusting a bid and going through all that again. That is just another series of delays and excuses. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with that then, I'll entertain a motion for item 9A through D to approve all of those related items.
I'll move to approve.
So I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
A motion passes unanimously. Good work, Raymond. I'm really glad to see that. And so that ends our business. Are there any other executive session items?
No, ma'am, that's all we have for you.
Okay, so with that, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I want to make sure that we do have quorums for our meetings. And so, because it's still summertime, where's my little calendar on here? Jesus. Oh, my God. My calendar on oh, here it is. It's not as intuitive as the other ones. So in August, our meeting is Wednesday, the 13th at 9 o'clock, the second Wednesday. As far as everyone here, are you available to, as far as you know, to be in attendance? Ms. Ortega, the 8th?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So at least we know we have 4 of us, and then we'll check with the other 2. Have you heard anything back from the board, from the mayor about an appointment?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay,
No.
I'm gonna stop by, because I gave them a name.
Right.
And told them that we had this vacancy we needed to fill, so.
Right. Yeah, I have not heard anything.
And would you follow up with Leah?
She's online, actually.
I'm here, I'm on the line.
I didn't
And
know she
yes,
was
I'm
online.
fine. I
She
have it on-
came in right after we
Yes.
started up. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize. Were you voting?
That's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
so sorry. I didn't realize you had joined us. I didn't think you were here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Next time someone gets on, make sure I know, because now I'm embarrassed.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I haven't asked her a single question.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do
She's the
that.
treasurer. She could have given us feedback on the other stuff. So, okay, well, thank you for joining us, and my apologies.
Not a problem. And yes, I'm available in August.
Okay, great. So
I'll
we
be
should-
there in person.
Okay, well, that's fine. I just want to make sure we can have a quorum, because with all the stuff going on, particularly with Pelicano, I want to make sure that we don't, that we can meet regularly and stay on top of things. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
So the meeting's adjourned at 1:39 PM. Thanks, everybody, for your time.